the dial, turn it loud. Miami's pride, make us proud. CanesWear crew, you hear the crowd. Hurricanes ain't backing down. Every play, every score, raising bets and raising roar. Rocking orange, green galore. All for one and one for four. We got FTSN, taking names, win it again. Podcast fam, till the end. Tune in, now let's begin.
Welcome back to the CanesWear podcast. I am Gio Milian. I am not joined today by Brett. Brett is at the shop, CanesWear in Davie, 2655 South University Drive, right next to the famous Las Patas Hoagies. Make sure you get out there to CanesWear this afternoon before the game. The game's at 7:30. Official kickoff is at 7:50. I'm just doing a quick impromptu show before I head out to the stadium. I'm going to be leaving in about an hour or so. I'm going to take some questions here. I'll talk about some of the matchups heading into this game itself. I've watched plenty on Indiana. I've watched Miami through the entire year. I think it's a great matchup for Miami. I preferred this matchup for Miami going into the national championship. Spoke with several people about this after Miami advanced before the Indiana-Oregon game, that I don't like how Miami matches up with up-tempo teams that really spread it out. Love the matchup with Indiana. We'll get into that. I see a couple of comments already rolling through and everything. I know people probably have questions about transfer portal stuff, the recent visit of Jordan Seaton, who came to campus over the weekend. Still things up in the air with Damon Wilson, who is anticipated to visit Miami, but no visit set yet. Darian Mensah, the Duke quarterback, who has announced his intentions to enter the transfer portal, but likely you don't see that become official until about Wednesday. Today's Martin Luther King Day, so it's a national holiday as well, aside from the national championship today. Most institutions, it could take up to 48 hours to process transfer portal requests. So I know this is a little bit of a surprise. Probably people weren't expecting me to go live on the day of a game, but here we are. So one of the first things I want to mention when I have watched Indiana's games this year, the biggest thing above all else, they are a heavy RPO team. I'm sure many fans have probably seen that to this point. But in the games that they have struggled most, and it's kind of tough to say struggled most when they're 15-0 right now, potentially on the cusp of becoming the first 16-0 team. But obviously, this game to be played tonight against Miami. When teams can effectively stop the run against Indiana, it creates problems for them. Those have been their most tight games this year. You go back to the game they had against Penn State. They couldn't establish the run consistently. You go back to the Ohio State game just a month ago. That was a 13-10 victory for the Hoosiers. Ohio State was able to effectively stop the run against Indiana. You go back to some of their other games this year as well. Against Iowa, very same story. Biggest thing for Miami going into this game, their run defense. They have to be prepared. The other thing, I think Miami needs to be able to get to Fernando Mendoza by rushing 4. I don't think necessarily you could send Keontae Scott on a nickel blitz as frequently as you have in the past. Just initial thoughts there and whatnot. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza, incredible story with him this season, winning the Heisman. Hometown kid here from Miami, Florida, played at Christopher Columbus, same high school that Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal came from, Bryce Fitzgerald on Miami Hurricanes roster, and several others, Ryan Rodriguez and other players as well. And Fernando's younger brother, who's at Indiana now, Alberto Mendoza. But I have seen on the tape, when the first read is not there, when you get Mendoza to have to get into a situation where he has to run, this is where Indiana struggles. Yes, he is a downhill runner. He's a very capable runner as a quarterback. It's obviously not the most mobile, but he is a capable runner. When you have those situations created by your defense, where the first read is not there and he has to start processing things, that's where Miami can win in this game. That's where they can create momentum and game-shifting plays. So you have to create pressure up front organically by your front four. So Akeem Mesidor, Ruben Bain, Ahmad Moten, Justin Scott, even the other guys, David Blay, Marquise Lightfoot, Armando Blunt. Miami needs a legacy game from those guys if they want to come out with this victory tonight. So the other thing I'll mention here, Indiana's receivers, they may not be as talented as some of the other groups Miami has seen in the playoffs, like the Texas A&M group or Ohio State, but they are a very consistent and productive group. Omar Cooper, Elijah Surratt, Charlie Becker. They have a trio of running backs as well that are very capable and viable running backs. So they will mix those guys into the rotation. However, their offensive line, there is a size disparity up front between Miami and Indiana. Indiana is a more experienced team on average. Their roster is about over 23 years old. Miami on average is about 20 years old on their roster. So this is a question of talent, physicality, and speed from Miami versus experienced veterans from the Hoosiers side that have played several collegiate football games. So Miami absolutely has to play a clean game. Indiana is a very well coached team. Miami could, on paper, Miami is the more talented team per se by the paper, but the games have to always get played on the field. It's never by what you see on paper. So offensively for Miami, I think establishing the run once again is very crucial to this game. You want to control the time of possession again. Obviously, you want to be more efficient this time around. There was some issues there for Miami when they played against Ole Miss. There was definitely some points left on the board. You could argue Miami left possibly 14, 17 points on the board and still walked out with a victory in the Fiesta Bowl. But Indiana's a very different team from Ole Miss. They're not as up-tempo, but they will kill you with mistakes. So this is what I mean by this is you can't afford consistent procedural penalties. You can't have the false starts, holding, any unsportsmanlike conduct, anything post-play. You cannot have anything like that in this game. Reason being so is how well coached Indiana is. They're one of the least penalized teams in the country. They play efficient football. Also for Miami, offensively, I think Malachi Tony, he's going to get his in this game, but Miami's receivers have to win outside on the perimeter. You need your guys like CJ Daniels, Keelan Marion, and whether you get a splash play from JoJo Trader or Joshua Moore in this game, you need production out on the perimeter. That is a weak spot for the Indiana defense. They don't cover well on the outside. They can't stop the run very well on the outside. Could this be a game maybe we see some Gerard Pringle sprinkled in there? We'll see. I think Mark Fletcher has done a phenomenal job in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if he has another great game tonight. But to me, it's those receivers on the outside, Keelan Marion and CJ Daniels. They have to win their matchups. And no slight to Indiana at all. They have good defensive backs. They really do. But Miami's got to win those matchups. And now from an offensive line standpoint, yes, Miami's offensive line towers over what Indiana has up front with their defensive line. Miami averages about 6'6", 6'7", 330 pounds across their offensive line. Indiana, much smaller, about 6'2" or so, 270, 280-pound range between the guys they employ up front. The other thing, too, I know we talk about time of possession in this game and Miami establishing the run game as well. One thing I've noticed with Indiana, Obviously, this is going to be a very physical, grinded out type of game. Both teams have that type of mentality. However, I think Miami can catch Indiana off balance with some up tempo and hurry up offense. But when they're ahead in the game, if they can create a lead in the game, I think they can throw Indiana off balance like that. I've caught that on tape when watching Indiana this season. They don't do well against up tempo. So those are just a few things there, just off the hoof. I want to answer a couple questions here. I'll be here about another 20, 30 minutes, and then I'm going to get prepared to head to the stadium. I see a few questions rolling in here from Iwitty. Gio, what do you expect to be the cornerback wide receiver matchups tonight? So Coach Cristobal shared on Friday during the media day that Damari Brown was trending towards a game time decision. We'll see tonight. I'll be out there. I'll see what happens, if he's going to give it a go or not. OJ Frederic, he said, is ready to go. They still have the freshman and Jabari Antoine, who played some snaps in the Ole Miss game as well. Ethan O'Connor will be out there. Xavier Lucas is out for the first half. So you hope that doesn't affect Miami in any way, because Indiana has a group of receivers that are very productive. Maybe not as talented as previous groups, but they are consistent. And Charlie Becker, from almost any receiver in the country this year, that kid does not drop the ball. Miami has to be prepared for him. I think he's the one that could cause problems for Miami tonight. Let's see. 1 milligram of epinephrine. Be still, my beating heart. Look who it is. Hey, thank you. Thank you for stopping by. This is just really quick spur of the moment. I just wanted to pop in here and everything. I'll have something after the game this week and whatnot, and we'll jump back into more transfer portal stuff. But thank you for stopping by, man, as always. He said, Damari Brown getting limited action would be huge tonight. Do you see him getting reps? The thing is, I don't want to say the exact injury. There's people out there who know what it is. I know what it is. However, it's more of those day-to-day, week-to-week type of injuries where you kind of see as you go. They'll see as today. Very similar to the injury that Keontae Scott had. We'll see. I don't want to guarantee any promise or anything, or say, yeah, for sure he's going to play, because it really is up in the air. Ewity also said, who do you think is the weakest link on Indiana's offensive line? I think Benson. Yes, the right side of their line has a weakness. It absolutely does when you watch the tape, when you watch them throughout the season. I've watched Indiana a few times throughout the season, but especially now when this matchup was confirmed, got the chance to watch more intently on their playoff games and even late season, and it is that right side of their offensive line. 918 Kane, Damon Wilson's really being difficult for no reason. Laugh out loud. Just make the logical decision. Yeah, so he's got a few programs involved with him, obviously. So he visited LSU already. Texas Tech is involved. I know Ohio State had some interest. From what I heard recently, they may have backed off. It's still anticipated that he's going to visit Miami. If I had to give a timeline, it's probably going to be after this game. Miami's just focused on this right now, and nothing against that either. I mean, it's really tough to be hosting someone when you're playing a national championship game. It's all hands on deck for the game. But they did host a couple of guys over the weekend in Meriwether, the offensive tackle from Georgia, and then Jordan Seaton from Colorado. Witty, we have to run crossing routes and comeback routes to beat the zone. They do a lot of spot dropping. Yes, Indiana does play a lot of zone. D'Angelo Pons, for as small as he is as a defensive back, it's very impressive. Local South Florida guy as well. There's plenty of South Florida guys in this game tonight that are going to make a difference. But I'm with you on that. And I think this is a game that, like I said earlier, Miami's outside receivers, they need to win their matchups. They need to find the soft spot in the zone. And I do think this is a game that Malachi Toney will put his stamp on. Hassan shared here. Let's go Canes. It's all about the yes. Let's go Canes. Tonight is the night that everyone has been waiting for 23 years. E Witty, Gio, are you worried about the back shoulder throws? Yeah, so Mendoza does that a lot with Elijah Surratt. I feel like Miami's defensive back group is really good. They're arguably you could say maybe top 5, top 7 defensive back group in the country. Which when you're splitting hairs at that point between all the other defensive backfields in the country, but Miami is one of the best. Indiana has a really good secondary too. I just think they have a little bit of weakness out on the perimeter, which I think and I hope that Miami can exploit tonight. But no, I'm not necessarily worried about that. My concern more so is what that cornerback rotation will look like in the first half if Damari Brown is not a go, and then having Xavier Lucas out in the first half. Hassan shared here, Gio, Miami can't drop those interceptions. They dropped 4 of them. Yes, that was absolutely backbreaking for Miami when they played Ole Miss, dropping the 4 picks. I think one of the worst ones of them all, it'd have to have been the one right before the end of that first half when Dylan Day had an easy gimme that we probably could have went for a pick 6 to end that first half. Just unfortunately, it wasn't falling Miami's way that night. You hope it falls that way for Miami tonight. I do think there may come an opportunity or two when Miami gets pressure organically that their defensive backs could come up with 1 or 2 turnovers tonight. I think so. And the other thing I want to mention too, this is not like on any type of rah-rah stuff or trying to hype people up, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think Indiana has seen a defense like Miami's this season. The only one that is close or comparable, in my opinion, would be Ohio State when Indiana played Ohio State. And Ohio State actually blew that game. If you go back and watch that Big Ten championship, twice in the red zone, missed a chip shot as well. They blew that game. Absolutely. So, all this narrative over the past week and a half of Indiana's the greatest team of all time, coming from the media, Indiana players being asked the question if they could beat 2019 LSU, and they say, yeah. I wonder if they have consumed the rat poison. I don't think they have. I think Signetti has them very focused and on task, but just the hype is coming off of a matchup against Oregon, who was just clearly not prepared to play against Indiana. And they were missing some coordinators too. And then Alabama this year, if anyone watched Alabama, who Indiana played in their first playoff game, Alabama is not the same Alabama that everyone remembers under Nick Saban. And this has been very clear and transparent for 2 seasons now. So I think that gets lost in translation there. To me, I think you want to see more of what the team that Indiana is. You watch that Big Ten championship. I like this matchup for Miami a lot. Do I think Miami's going to blow them out? No. Do I think Miami has a real chance at winning this game tonight? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Miami is stout enough up front where they can generate pressure organically, where they don't have to send a nickel blitz or send 5 or 6 from their front 6 to be able to create pressure consistently tonight. I think their defensive line is good enough. And Ohio State's was very similar to that. And they were able to do that against Indiana. So we're going to see tonight. But if you are wondering, yes, I do have Miami winning. I've told people my score for over a week and a half now. I have it 24-20. Think it's going to be a close game, but I think it's one of those ones where when you're watching it, you feel that Miami is in control of the game. Just Indiana is going to hang around for a bit. Let's see here. Mr. Jake, thank you for stopping by. Oh, by the way, just check the numbers here because I know several people are at the stadium right now. I'll be getting there soon, but close to almost 1,000 people here stopping by in the first 15 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for your support. I'm going to wrap up here in the next 10 minutes or so, but Mr. Jake, he said, gosh damn, Gio, I want this one like a fat boy wants cake. Even pushing 60, I'd still lace up and get out there with the guys. I want it that bad. Yeah, I think, one of the biggest themes that I've noticed when it comes to the University of Miami, because, and I've talked about this with alumni the last several days at a few events I've been at, and the running theme is that Miami is a community team. Yes, there's other schools that they joke around and say, oh, you probably didn't go to Miami. You didn't even study at Miami or this and that. While that may be true for some fans, Miami's a very different team from other collegiate programs. It's a community team. The community gets behind it. There's several stories behind it, how people became fans of the Hurricanes. And perfect example, I stopped by at a private event this weekend with Canes barber, Steve, who has been cutting the players' hair. You're talking about dating back to maybe 2004, 2005, around that era that he's been around the program. And he had told me that how he became a fan, is just watching those teams. And then on the community aspect that I'm trying to get to here. So it was Javaris James who hooked up Canes barber to start cutting the players' hair over 20 something years ago. Canes barber was, for the story goes, is that he was working in a prison, and Javaris James, one of his family members, was at that prison, and they kind of just got to talking. He asked him, hey, who cuts your hair and whatnot and everything. And it kind of just took life from there. And Canes barber was just a fan of the program and everything. And the whole story, he started cutting his hair as a kid, and now he cuts all the players' hair. He cuts NFL players' hair and whatnot. But he had mentioned this yesterday when I was speaking to him, that it really is a team that is supported by its community, because not everyone went to Miami. It's a small school. It is. It's the little school that they said couldn't, that they could never do that. How could they win a national championship? How could they do this? How could they do that? But yet they still continue to. And they're a very polarizing program because they are not your norm. They are not your Ohio State that has 100,000 seats in their stadium and there's nothing else to do in that area. This is why you see all this hype and buzz around Miami, because, yeah, it's very much predicated on its community. But its community has come around them and is supporting them and backing them throughout this run and throughout this season. And it's just incredible overall. I don't want to lose the plot here, but Miami is a team that is very much supported behind its community. It's not so much the alumni base, and the alumni base is very strong. Don't get me wrong here, but just the stories behind it, how people became fans or how they became involved with the program. I'll give an example. My own self, just speaking about it briefly. I was a fan many years ago, since I was a child, and I was so passionate enough about it. Actually, one day I used to post on Canes Insight over a decade ago. And D-Money one day told me, he said, hey, you seem pretty knowledgeable. You know how to speak. You know how to write. Have you ever thought about covering this? And I was just like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, I was just I was in a totally different profession at the time, and just took life in itself over time. I don't know many programs around the country that have people who were longtime fans that ended up getting involved in media. Miami's a very different animal compared to other programs. But enough about that. Yes, Miami is a team that is backed by its community, 100%. Ewitty said here, I think Shannon Dawson has to almost have a perfect game. When we get in the red zone, we cannot afford to leave points on the board. You see, I agree with you here. I think you have to strike a balance between creativity and efficiency as well. And I think Miami got caught up in a bit of that against Ole Miss, where you were winning with a run game. Like Ole Miss could not stop Miami's run game. They were gashing them right up the A gap. I think you have to coach with the flow of the game. I'm always big on this, coach with the flow of the game, that you have to identify as the game is progressing, what type of game are you in? Are you in a shootout? Are you in a grinded out, nasty defensive game? Or another example, are you in a heavyweight bout where both teams are scoring on each possession? Like, it's just many different scenarios. But what I'm getting to is coach with the flow of the game. If you feel that there is a need to throw in some creativity, some trick plays here and there, fine. But if you are winning, if you are winning between those lines and that grass and dirt, just by efficient plays, just running up the middle, running up the A gap, or just simple routine routes and moving the chains, do so. There's no need to get outside of the box with that. Just strike the right balance. I think that's all it is that Miami fans would ask for. I know several fans were upset with some of the calls against Ole Miss, that some people feel maybe it kind of destroyed some drives. I think what mostly destroyed some drives was procedural penalties, which I've gone on before, that Miami can't have that tonight. I'm not saying you can't have it at all. You know, naturally, sometimes those things happen in a game, but it can't be a consistent thing where you're driving and you're getting near the red zone, or you're in the red zone, and let's say you have a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and then, you know, the whistle gets blown and, oh, false start, Miami offensive lineman, such and such number. You can't have that in a game like this. Every single yard matters. Every score matters. Field position absolutely matters. Just everything top to bottom. And another point I want to get on to, because I was going to talk about this earlier, Vegas brought this up. Gio, Indiana rotates 13 players on defense. It's 14, but you're still correct in that matter, though, that this is why Indiana has problems when teams go up tempo on them. I could see a scenario where Miami's grinding it out against them early on, and if they can create a sustainable enough lead, whether it's, you know, a 1 or 2 score game, that they may introduce some hurry up tempo offense on Indiana to throw them off, because they don't rotate a lot on defense. Those players play a lot of snaps, but naturally, just anyone, doesn't matter how fit you are, you're going to get tired throughout the progression of the game. And then he's put here, to me, that sounds like we can really wear them down as long as we keep running the ball down their throats. Yes, I agree. The first thing I brought up, establish the run. If Miami can establish the run, and if they don't have to necessarily stop the run game for Indiana, but if you can contain it or stop it enough, you disrupt what they do best in that RPO game. Luis Delgadillo, why are we so confident we will beat Indiana? I think we are going to have problems covering the wide receivers in the first half. I don't think so. I think Miami has played receivers as good or more talented during their playoff run this year. I don't think there's anything they haven't seen in terms of Indiana's wide receivers. They went against Jeremiah Smith. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith gave them their toughest time, but Indiana does not have a Jeremiah Smith in that wide receiver room. They went against Carnell Tate, KC Concepcion, Mario Craver, Bethel Roman from A&M. Ole Miss had a slew of wide receivers. Actually, as a matter of fact, who Miami struggled with against Ole Miss wasn't necessarily their receivers. I think Miami did a pretty good job of containing that. I think it was mostly their tight end who actually found some success against Miami. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on going into this game. That can Miami stop that? Because Indiana has a decent tight end on their roster, very solid. Jedi Joshua, is Mensah actually in the portal yet? He's not officially in the portal yet, but that could come between Tuesday and Wednesday. And news on Seton Wilson, spoke about Seton and Wilson earlier. I've watched so many game breakdowns. I am ready to kick off. Laugh out loud. I am just bored asking. I don't blame you, man. Look, we're about 6.5 hours away from kickoff. The official kickoff is at 7:50 for anyone wondering. But yeah, I'm with you. Mr. Jake, take your negative energy back into the basement. Easy Kane share. Thanks, Gio, for putting this together. Absolutely. I mean, this is just quick, impromptu, just going to wrap up in the next few minutes here, but just wanted to stop by, just shoot it with you guys, talk a bit, take some questions real quick. Hassan, Gio, everyone is making Indiana unbeatable. They're not unbeatable. Indiana's not unbeatable. They're undefeated to this point. Let's redirect that. But they've come very close to losing games this year. The Penn State game until, basically Omar Cooper and Fernando Mendoza had made a heck of a play, both of them, towards the end of that game. When they played Iowa, Iowa had them on the ropes. The problem with Iowa is their defensive backs couldn't cover for anything. That's why Iowa lost that game. Ohio State, they blew it in the red zone twice. They had every opportunity to win that game. Those just few examples there that they're not unbeatable. They can be beaten, but I think you have to play efficiently. You can't give up opportunities that you're given. You have to capitalize on them. So I think Miami needs to play a clean game. They don't need a perfect game, but they need to play a clean, efficient game. And then he put here, but Miami beat better teams and better players than Indiana. Well, better teams and better players is subjective or opinionated. I think Ohio State's more talented than Indiana, but I think Indiana was better coached than Ohio State. And that's basically why they won that Big Ten championship. I think Ohio State was the better team. They couldn't pull it off. They blew their opportunity. And then he put here, and after the games keep going, you will see Miami's talent window. Yeah, I think in terms of talent, Miami, obviously from a talent perspective, to me, one of the top 3 teams this year that anyone has seen in college football. Luis Delgadillo. Gio, what would be your game plan for offense and defense so I mentioned that earlier. Establish the run. You need to win outside on the perimeter. Speaking about guys like CJ Daniels, Keelan Marion, some spot duty that you get from JoJo Trader or Joshua Moore getting into the game. Those guys need to make plays here and there, catch the ball, blocking, just routine stuff. And most of all, I'm going to put it this way. Carson Beck has only thrown 1 real interception since the beginning of November. Outside of that, yeah, he had the tip ball against Ole Miss, but the guy's played really good football, and he doesn't need to be the superhero tonight, but he does have to play efficient football. He has to move the chains. His legs, very key, very, very key going into this game, that in terms of moving the chains, if receivers can't get open, and if he has a lane to run through and pick up extra yards or potentially a first down, everyone has to see that again. Miami fans have to see that again, because that can lead to a win. It's just every little thing matters. So, and I think he will. I think he will have a clean, efficient game. Ryan says, so if and when down the look, I don't want to start talking about any parades or anything like that. Still that game to be played tonight. I think I'll put it to you this way. I know there's a statistic that came out that the last 6 national championship games were decided by more than 2 scores. I think that trend is bucked tonight. I think this is going to be a close one. I have it 24-20. I've had it 24-20 since the matchup was announced. Yeah. And Ryan shared here, start if so. All right. New King God. What's the news on OJ? Yeah. So on OJ, Mario mentioned on Friday that he should be good to go. So we'll see. Jonathan Crumbly said we got the best DBs in the nation. Arguably so, yes. Indiana has some good defensive backs as well. Lewis Farrell is on. Amari Farrell is on that team. They have the other safety. What's his name again? Lewis Moore. Cornerback D'Angelo Pons, one of the best in the country as well. They have guys on their end. And I will mention one other thing. I said that, one of the keys to the game, Miami establishing the run. Don't sleep on Indiana's linebackers. And I know Indiana's smaller up front on their defensive line, which, I'm sure that brings back people memories to like the Notre Dame game, how much smaller their defensive line was compared to Miami's. But Indiana's linebackers are for real, especially Elijah Hardy. Very, very talented. They fly around the field. So I don't think it's going to be the easiest task to establish the run. But every team that has given Indiana fits this year, it all starts with the run game. New King God, how do you feel Miami will handle Indiana stunts? I don't want to discredit Indiana, but I think their pass rushers, I don't think it's anything that Miami hasn't seen to this point this year. I've had the hot take throughout the postseason that I think Miami had already beaten their toughest opponent in their bracket, which I felt was Ohio State, but we'll see. Fire Marine Kane. Gio, what's good, man? Glad you were able to get your credentials to experience the Canes win their 6. Go Canes 27-21. I like your score prediction. And thank you. Yes. Through all these years, never had a problem getting a credential to any game. I've covered different teams. I've done stuff on the Heat before, Panthers and whatnot years ago. First time ever for a game that I had an issue, but Miami got me right. They got everything cleared and ready for me. I'm very appreciative to the administration at Miami. They stepped in for me and went up to bat for me. I know some people that may work independently in the media now. I went independent over the past year. They were scrutinized a bit and whatnot going into the game, but Miami went up to bat for me at the end of the day. And thank you. Thank you to everyone at Miami for doing so. Vegas Kane, they sound like they are happy to be here. You're talking about Indiana? Yeah. Certain things they've said, but I think Cignetti has tried to rein that in a bit in terms of his players. And he spoke about it yesterday during the coaches' news conference that, he felt like there was kind of time to put a saw to that no more about the emotional aspects or anything, that there's still a game to be played. I think they'll be prepared to. Natty Jason, I like the handle. What is the shady stuff Cignetti tried to pull during this week to mess with Miami? So people have been asking me about that. A few things I'll mention. There was a scenario where I think it's perfect time to bring it up because the game's almost coming up, basically. When it comes to Canes Walk, there was some complaints from Cignetti and his camp with some of the event planners for this game about wanting to change where it's done to be on the opposite side of the stadium because of, the mentioning that, Miami's not technically the home team that they're visiting and whatnot. There was some complaints about the locker room situation. From what I understand, Cignetti and his camp were trying to push for Miami to be in a different locker room. Miami ended up getting their usual locker room that they use at Hard Rock Stadium. I know that Cignetti requested for the Dolphins locker room. From what I understand, I think that's what they're going to get. So we'll see. And then there was also even down to nitty-gritty details about wanting to change the bus route that Miami takes to Hard Rock Stadium, which is crazy in itself. Mind you, this is coming from someone that has dealt with a lot of the event planning for the CFP. There's so much that goes into this, guys. I was at the team hotel yesterday. It's incredible the amount of work and effort that's put into all of this to prepare this. I will share with you guys this though. Mario Cristobal has had the team on lockdown. He had them on lockdown all day yesterday, and they did not come down at all. The team was up in the room. I know they had a private event just for the players themselves. I know there was walkthroughs that went on as well, as normal as teams do before any game, but no distractions at all. And in terms of the hotel stuff too, yeah, I know that Miami initially wanted their own hotel. The CFP stepped in and they wanted Miami to stay at the Fontainebleau. It is what it is. The way it works too, how the hotels are determined as well for each team. It's also based on the bowl game winners. So, for example, Miami won the Fiesta Bowl. The Fiesta Bowl committee is the one that kind of sets that all up and prepares like, okay, this team's going to stay in this hotel. And then the winner of, now I forget which bowl Indiana won last week. I think it was the Rose Bowl. No, was that the Rose Bowl? I can't remember, guys. I can't remember which bowl game Indiana won, but whichever one it was, the committee of that bowl game is the one that decides where Indiana is going to stay in all those preparations. There's just a lot that goes into all this. But the setup was gorgeous for Miami. Several people came out yesterday throughout the afternoon and the evening just in support of the team. People stopping by the hotel, big wigs out there, guys from ESPN who are Miami alums or big Miami fans as well. The city's ready. The people are ready. People want to see Miami play in this game. So, and anything else that I may have forgot about the Signetti stuff? Oh, one more thing. So, in terms of haircuts for each team, so they had barbers sent to the hotels, from what I understand. And Signetti made a big stink about the barber because the barber cuts Miami's hair, but he also cuts other NFL teams, players, and everything from the Bills and the Jets. It's not only just the Hurricanes. So that was all settled and squashed before all this started. But yeah, I will say this. Kirk Signetti is a good coach. No matter all the hoopla or anything about, all the little intricate details, he is a good coach, and he pays very much attention to every little detail. And could you blame the guy for trying to find any type of little edge in a game? A lot of coaches do. So I don't think it's anything that's just outside of the ordinary. Hassan put down 34-14 Miami. I'd love to see that, but I don't think it's that type of game. Hassan shared, Gio, seeing Lane Kiffin with Jordan Seaton makes my skin crawl. That dude is a snake. Yeah, LSU is spending a lot of money right now. They're very much backing Lane. He basically has an open checkbook at this point. Vegas Kane, we have fans coast to coast, and we may not be in large numbers, but we are loyal and mighty. Yes, absolutely. Miami is a national brand. I know several people that I was speaking with yesterday who came in from New York, from the West Coast as well, that are Miami fans or went to Miami. Listen, don't listen to the stuff about the Indiana fans who are at these airports or at certain events and they say, oh, it was 90-10 Indiana fans, or I'm on this flight from Oklahoma and we got 30 Indiana fans in this plane and there's no Hurricane fans or whatever. Guess what? There's a large majority of Miami fans who are already here in South Florida because the game is here. Why would they get on a plane to turn right back around to Miami? Think about that. But just saying. Vegas Kane, I'm most happy that young Canes fans will experience the greatness that I got to experience in the 80s. Yes. Shout out and salute to the young Hurricane fans, because I'll put it to you this way. The last time Miami won a national title, I was 10 years old. Was talking about it with my oldest son some days ago, that we were talking about the game and just Miami playing it in. And he was like, Dad, are you going to the game and everything? And I realized when talking to him, I'm like, wait a minute, he's 10 right now too. Like, just little emotional there, just thinking about it. I'm like, man, I was 10 years old the last time Miami won it all. So it's been a very long time, very, very long time. And I mean, at least I got to witness that. But I'm talking about for the fans that didn't get to witness the the truly great teams. I know there's some glimpses over the years, like the 2017 team that they kind of gave people that feeling for a certain amount of time, but on this scale, it hasn't been for so long. There's several Kane fans now that have never experienced that. I think maybe the closest thing for those Kane fans was 2017 or the Final Four run by the basketball team, but nothing compares to this. I mean, it's incredible what they've done, and every Hurricane fan who was not born before that last national title, welcome to what it feels like. It's very different when Miami's winning. Chris Monroe shared, Pitbull showed up at our tailgate in 1999 as a young rapper slinging mixtapes out of the back of his car. Go Canes. Yeah, it's incredible to come up, man. Just everyone compared to back then to now. And then with Pitbull as well, he's going to be performing right in front of the stadium. I believe it's around 5 o'clock. He'll be performing. So check that out if you're heading to the game. Martin Dubé puts down. Oh, thank you for stopping by, Martin Dubé, from all the way across the world. This man always stopping by to show love. Martin shared 42-10 Miami. That's bold prediction. Vegas Kane. There's nothing like it in any fan base. Absolutely. Lorraine shared here. Let's go, Gio. From the moment we met, we have been passionate and on the same team. Yes, we have been. Hassan, please tell me Miami fans will outnumber those idiot Indiana fans. They are already talking smack, saying they are taking over Miami on Twitter, but those morons think South Beach is Miami. Yeah, the funny thing is, I saw that, about the concerts and everything that they were hosting on South Beach, which, mind you, on Friday was absolutely on Saturday it was absolutely insane from what I understand. People started jumping over the security barricades and everything, just disaster of a situation. However, Indiana fans say like, oh, we're all here on South Beach. South Floridians, if you're a true South Floridian, and I can say this for fact, and my own family can back me up on this and vouch for what I'm saying, as several other South Floridians can, we don't like South Beach anymore. South Beach is not the South Beach from the 70s or 80s. It's completely changed. It's not the crowd for everyone anymore. I mean, shoot, back when I was single many years ago, I didn't even hang out in South Beach. I didn't hang out in other areas like Las Olas and Fort Lauderdale or different areas or Brickell or whatever. I didn't hang out in South Beach. South Beach is not the same South Beach. So Indiana fans are just going off of stuff they've heard in the past. Oh, that South Beach, this and that. Real South Floridians, not the tourists, South Floridians, barely any of us go to South Beach anymore. Vegas Kane. My father had cancer and I was a Dolphins fan and wanted to see the Dolphins play, but his cancer got worse and I had to watch the Canes play a day earlier because we couldn't stay for the Fins game. Yeah. It's a good story, my man. Martin Dubé. Until someone explains to me how D linemen who weigh 278 on average will stop 330-pound average offensive line for 4 quarters. So 42-10. Fletcher is bigger than the linebackers. True. But I just think Indiana's a well-coached team. I look, maybe I'm wrong, but I have it 24-20 Miami. Juan Cho reposted the stream. Thank you, Juan, for stopping by. Jamaican Kane. What's up, Gio? It's Ross Kane. Thank you for stopping by, Ross Kane. I know exactly who you are. I expect us to be better than them on special teams tonight. Punt return and flipping the field. Yeah, so interesting thing about that. Indiana has been without their long field goal kicker and kickoff specialist since October. And it's still kind of up in the air if he's going to play for them or not tonight. So that could factor into the game. Natty Bound Flow. I spoke about Damari earlier. As Mario mentioned he was trending towards a game time decision. Hassan shared, Gio, I've been saying 34-14 Miami when the playoffs started on every game. My score has to hit sometime. Eventually it will. Vegas Kane, I don't know how Dono couldn't get credits. Yeah, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how Alex Dono didn't get credentials for the game. It was surprising to me. I spoke with him about it too earlier this week. I was texting back and forth with him, and I absolutely don't get it. The whole process and everything. It's been like a lot of issues, and it's not decisions that Miami or Indiana's make. I'm hearing there's issues even on Indiana's side that like prominent members for Indiana that cover their team are having issues with their credential even coming into this weekend. And then no, but Dono should absolutely be there. That's an absolute travesty. I can't believe that. When he told me, I was just in shock. Do you think Miami used tempo on offense since Indiana plays only? Yes, I mentioned that earlier. I think they will later on in the game. Lance Davis, what's up, brothers in arms? Been with the Canes since Snellenberger. Let's effing go. Yes, 28-24. I like your score. I like that 4-point differential. I like it. Lance Davis, Canes. All right. 918 Kane. Just play ball, Signetti. Damn, he worried about the wrong things. Hassan shared, Gio, there was an article that Indiana's been cheating. Is that true? I don't know what to believe about that. I think there's some compelling things that people have brought up. I know, Mark Cuban who's an Indiana alum, had developed some of the cloud-based stuff in terms of what teams are using for like building out game plan and watching film and whatnot in recent years. I know people talking about like the Brock Shot. I don't think the Brock Shot transfer matters at all. I don't think that does anything at all. But there's been theories on that, even from the aspect of like people bringing up like, the talent level they have and how relative to like what they recruit and whatnot. I don't know. And usually the way these scenarios play out, I'm not saying Indiana is, but the way these scenarios play out, it comes out months after that a team may have been cheating or whatnot. So no one would know right now. But I do think it's interesting that it was brought up though. Vegas Kane, Peach. Oh, yeah. So yeah, they won the Peach. All right. So Lance Davis, we know the Hoosiers have cheated. The probability that they have done what they did. goes analog. Watch out for the potential beatdown. Yeah. I don't think Miami would be opposed to switching up anything that's necessary. Lance Davis, you can't hack paper. Very true. Fire Marine Kane. So in other words, Signetti being a petty ass, anyone can see him with the media, how much a petty ass of a man he is. That's why we have to come out and punch them in the mouth from the first play, man. I agree. Hassan shared, Sig is a pompous idiot. Fire Marine King. Can't wait to see the handshake Mario and staring Sig down after we beat the Yeah, Mario has definitely had some interesting stare downs after the handshake post game. Eddie Delva, 35-21 Canes. 5 rings. I got the young, big, fast guys. You beat the small, slow guys 24-20. I like your prediction because it's the same on point with mine. 24-20. I like that one. Raymond Rodriguez, let's mother effing go. Canes for life, yes. National Championship Hefe reposted the stream. Thank you for reposting. I'm actually about to hop off in a second here. Deuce asked here from Twitter, any update with Mensa? Just curious. Yeah. So the expectation is he could be officially in the portal by Tuesday or Wednesday. This whole process with that can take up to 48 hours in terms of institutions entering in the paperwork and whatnot. So, yeah. And official striker, who do you expect to step up for Miami in this game? Offense or defense? I think it's going to be the defense. I think the defense is going to be the one that makes the difference. But in terms of specific players stepping up, I think this is Mark Fletcher and Malachi Toney type of game. I could see Miami having an unexpected guy making a play or two. I'm looking at guys like Josh Moore, or JoJo Trader, who maybe haven't been stars this year, but coming up with a key contributing play at some point during the game. Defensively, though, Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, those guys have to have legacy games if Miami wants to win this one. And Jacoby Thomas. I think this is one of those Jacoby Thomas games, especially because of having to stop the run. Jacoby Thomas and Keontae Scott, very key in terms of that. Miami's linebackers have to play well too, by the way. You could contain or sort of stop Indiana's run game. You create a lot of problems for the rhythm of their offense and the RPO. You absolutely do. San shared here. Enjoy the game, Gio, and be safe. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to be heading out there soon. Fire Marine Kane. When do season tickets for this upcoming season go on sale, Gio? So, excuse me, I'm a little parched. Been talking almost an hour. In terms of the season tickets for next season, I know some people have already gotten some because of the way the request form worked for getting the national championship tickets and whatnot. So some people already got some. Should come up shortly thereafter. Usually comes up around this time of the year. So, but I'll come back with you on an official answer. Lance Davis, big time players make big time plays in big time games. Absolutely. Absolutely. With that said, thank you everyone for stopping by. Had almost close to 2,000 people stop by. What are you guys doing? Get to the stadium. Come on. 2,000 people stopping by on here. Come on, man. Just kidding. Go Canes. And hopefully the next time we are on here is to celebrate a national championship. So we shall see tonight. Broadcast is at 7:30 on ESPN. The official kick time that I'm aware of is set for 7:50 as of right now. We'll see if that holds true. Make sure to shop at CanesWear if you're heading on your way over to the stadium at 2655 South University Drive. Get your Malachi Tony jersey, get your national championship game shirts, get a hat. They have everything you can absolutely think of that you may need in terms of gear heading into this game. So with that said, thank you, everyone. See you soon. Go Canes, and hoping for number 6 tonight.